Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing alone at the edge of a Scandinavian forest. The air is cold, the light is fading, and the trees seem far too still. For a modern person, this silence means nothing. For a Viking, it meant everything. Silence was never empty. Silence meant that something was listening. The Viking world was not divided into the natural and the supernatural. There was no clear line between reality and myth. Spirits, creatures, and unseen forces were believed to exist everywhere, woven directly into the land, the water, and the sky. Magic was not entertainment, and it was not a collection of fairy tales. It was an explanation for how the world worked. Every place had a presence. Rivers were not just water, but living paths with memory and will. Mountains were ancient beings, older than humans, watching silently as generations passed. Forests were dangerous not only because of animals, but because they were inhabited by forces that did not belong to humanity. A Viking did not walk through nature as a master. He walked as a guest. Among the most feared beings in this world were trolls. Trolls were not the childish creatures of later folklore. They were powerful, unpredictable forces connected to wild places. Mountains, caves, deep forests, and remote valleys were believed to belong to them. Entering such places without respect was dangerous. A troll could bring illness, destroy livestock, or ruin a family's luck for generations. But trolls were not always purely evil. Many stories describe them as bound by strange rules, easily angered but also avoidable, if one knew how to behave. Elves were considered even more dangerous because they were closer. They lived near human settlements, in hills, stones, fields, and forests that people passed every day. Elves were believed to influence harvests, health, and fertility. A successful year could be a sign of their favor. Sudden sickness or crop failure could mean they had been offended. Because of this, Vikings left offerings. Milk, food, butter, or small gifts were placed quietly, not as worship, but as respect. Respect was survival. Magic also existed within people. Certain individuals were believed to see beyond the surface of reality and interact with hidden forces. One of the most feared and powerful forms of magic was Seiðr. Seiðr was not simple spellcasting. It involved rituals, chanting, altered states of consciousness, and communication with spirits. Through Seiðr, a person could influence luck, reveal hidden knowledge, or glimpse possible futures. Most practitioners of Seiðr were women, known as Völvas. These women traveled between settlements, carrying staffs, wearing distinctive clothing, and bringing both hope and fear. A Völva could bless a household, but she could also curse it. Ignoring her was dangerous. Even kings and powerful warriors listened carefully to what she had to say, because fate itself was believed to speak through her. Seiðr was feared not only for its power, but because it crossed boundaries. It blurred the line between worlds and challenged social roles. Men who practiced Seiðr were often distrusted or mocked. Yet in moments of crisis, those same men might be secretly consulted. When fate was uncertain, rules became flexible. Fate was central to Viking belief. Destiny governed all lives. It could be delayed or twisted, but never escaped. Because of this, signs and omens were taken seriously. Dreams, strange animal behavior, sudden accidents, or unusual silence were all interpreted as messages. Before journeys, Vikings watched carefully. A broken tool, an uneasy feeling, or a small accident could be enough to delay travel, because ignoring such warnings often ended in disaster. Amulets were everywhere. They were worn around the neck, sewn into clothing, hidden in pouches, or hung inside homes. These objects were believed to protect against spirits, misfortune, and bad luck. Their power came from tradition and belief, passed down through generations. Runes were especially important. They were not simply letters, but symbols of force. Each rune carried meaning, such as protection, journey, strength, or death. Carving runes was done carefully, because mistakes could reverse their power. Runes were cut into weapons, ships, tools, and door frames, meant to guide fate itself. Magic shaped everyday behavior. Certain words were avoided. Certain actions were forbidden. Whistling at night could attract unwanted attention. Calling names in the forest could invite a response. Speaking openly about death was believed to draw it closer. Children learned these rules early, not as superstition, but as practical knowledge for survival. Even when Christianity began to spread, these beliefs did not disappear overnight. Old spirits did not vanish. They adapted. Saints replaced gods, but elves still lived in the hills, and fear of the unseen remained. The Viking world was dangerous not only because of war and violence, but because the unseen was always near. To live as a Viking meant living with the feeling of being watched, judged, and tested by forces beyond human control. Yet these beliefs also gave structure to life. Nothing was random, nothing was meaningless. Every event fit into a greater pattern. Magic was not about control, but about understanding one's place in a vast and uncaring world. Vikings also believed that spirits lived inside their homes. Not all danger came from forests or mountains. Some of it lived much closer. Every household could be protected by unseen forces, but it could also be haunted if proper respect was not shown. These spirits were not monsters. They were guardians, watchers, and sometimes judges. A home spirit was believed to protect the family, the animals, and the land around the house. But this protection was not unconditional. It depended on behavior. Loud arguments, disrespect, broken promises, or neglect could anger these unseen guardians. When that happened, misfortune followed. Tools would break, animals would fall ill, or strange noises would be heard at night. Because of this, Vikings followed many unwritten rules. Food was never wasted carelessly. Certain actions were avoided after sunset. Some tasks were never done at night, when the boundary between worlds was believed to be thinner. These rules were not written down, but everyone knew them. Breaking them invited consequences. Magic was not always dramatic. Most of it was quiet and ordinary. It lived in habits, in silence, and in caution. The goal was not to control spirits, but to live without drawing their attention. A good life was one that did not disturb the balance between humans and the unseen. For a Viking, safety did not come only from strength or weapons. It came from respect. Respect for the land, respect for spirits, respect for forces that could not be fought. So when we dismiss Viking beliefs in spirits, trolls, and magic, we miss the point. These beliefs explained chaos. They gave meaning to fear. And in a cold, brutal world, that meaning mattered. The Viking universe was alive. Not silent, not empty, alive, unseen, and always watching.